Welcome to the Audacity to Age, where becoming never gets old. I'm Kristie Crenshaw, and this is a place for women who believe life's most meaningful chapters aren't behind them, they're being written right now. Together, we'll explore the stories, lessons learned, reinventions, and unexpected joys that come with life after 50. Together, we'll challenge old thinking, embrace new possibilities, and discover what it means to age with purpose, curiosity, originality, and verve. So grab your coffee, lace up your walking shoes, or settle into your favorite chair. This is the Audacity to Age. This is a conversation with Shane Shapps about living free and single in Chicago in her 20s, how hard motherhood actually is, some real talk, deeper friendships over 40, and also a peek into what real Jewish life in current day looks like. It's worth a listen. Hey there, Shane Shapps. How are you?
Kristie, I'm great. How are you?
I'm fantastic, and I'm so thrilled to have you today to talk with us. So let's get a level set of who is Shane Shapps.
Well, that's a big question. And I'm not a very big person. I'm 4'8". I kind of always start with, I'm 4'8". I come from a very small package. So who am I? I am born and bred in Louisville, Kentucky, went off for more than a decade. I left and I was like, I'm never going back there. I'm done with that place. Get me out of here. And at some point along the way, Louisville became the right choice for my husband and I to settle and raise a family. Sometimes I wonder if it was truly the right choice. I go back and forth a little bit. I've raised those children and now I'm like, can we go back to the city? I own a small agency. We do social media marketing. I've been doing that since 2008. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I was raised by an entrepreneur and always knew that I wanted to be my own boss. I worked in the two big cities I lived in, Chicago and Manhattan. I worked in the hospitality industry, logistics, planning conferences and events. I loved what I did, but the bureaucracy behind those specific companies, I was like, I'm not cut out for this. So when we moved to Louisville, I decided I've got to find a way to be my own boss. And it took several iterations. It took several tries for something to stick. And I kind of landed on social media. One sort of led into another. And here I am.
Awesome. Starting off on this venture, my whole point was to hopefully learn from the wisdom of women 50 plus. And sometimes we get forgetful and I don't even have my light on. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. I was looking at myself going, why do I look sick? And now I know. So we're turning that on. Staying in the moment here, folks.
It's all about being real.
Yes,
We're just being authentic.
So real. Yeah. And that light just really highlights the fact that I need to get my roots done. So there's that. Anyway.
You're like, I just got mine done. So if this was a week ago.
Right. It looks great. Back to you. So let's kind of walk through. I want to walk through the 20s, 30s, and 40s. And what was your primary biggest lesson learned that if you could pass it down to younger Shane or pass it down to, you do have a daughter, younger women that could learn from that, what would that lesson be? So let's focus on 20s. And
Sure.
If you have a story that you could incorporate into that would help cement that learning for us, we'd love to hear it.
Sure, absolutely. And, you mentioned my daughter, she's 21, she's about to graduate college. So when I think back on my 20s, I was right at her stage, graduating college, figuring out where am I going to go. I was graduating from the University of Florida. This was 1995. I had a plan to move to DC. I had spent 2 summers in college there. I loved it. It was a fun city. I just had a great time. And I was graduating a little bit late. I was graduating in August. And that May, my brother got married in Chicago. And I was like, Chicago seems like a lot of fun. I've got family here. It's closer to home. I think I'm going to go to Chicago. So I kind of just pivoted. I mean, I didn't have a job yet. It didn't matter. So I decided to move to Chicago. And I loved it. I loved being young and single. It was a great city to be in at that stage of my life. I kind of lived in the YOLO, even though that wasn't really a thing yet. It wasn't a term, but I was kind of like, yeah, you want to go on a trip? Let's go on a trip. You want to do this? You bet. And it was very spontaneous and fun. I think that the one lesson that I learned in my 20s, and it's funny, my daughter and I have been talking about this lately, is not everybody's on the same schedule anymore. up until then, you go through elementary, middle, high school, college. You get to college graduation, everyone's on their own schedule. Some people go to medical school, some people go to graduate school, some people, I got a job. I was never going back to school after graduation. I was not a great student, not my skill. So everyone was on the different schedule. There were people I knew that got married right out of college. That was not my journey. There were people that had children right away. There were people that didn't have children. Everyone's just sort of finding what fits for them. And I think that's an important lesson, because up until then, it's where's everyone going to college? What's everyone doing this summer? Who's going abroad? And then you get to college graduation and you just find your own path. And I think that's a really important lesson at this stage. And it's hard. It's much harder today than it was back then because of social media. You're seeing, my daughter knows someone her age who just got married and is having a baby. Totally different road than Jenna's taking. And so you see all of that on social. And at some point, she might look at other people and what they're doing and be like, oh, should I be doing that? We didn't have that. It wasn't a thing.
I hate to ask, but do you have any regrets?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Not in my 20s.
That's a fair answer. No is a full answer for that one.
Yeah, I don't think so. My husband and I had a sort of a soap opera relationship. We met when I was 21. We met at a bar in the middle of the night on South Beach. But we didn't get married until I was 28. We were long distance. We broke up. It was, never going to speak to him, the whole thing.
Right.
But no, I made good friends in those years. I had a lot of fun. These were the days of must-see TV. So every Thursday, the entire department of people I worked with, we were all under 25. We'd go to somebody's apartment, we'd order in food, we'd watch Friends and Seinfeld that were brand new shows. And if you got there, late, no one was buzzing you in because there was no pausing the TV,
right.
So those were just fun years. Now they were also, there were a lot of trials. I didn't like when we broke up. I didn't like being single at times during my 20s. That was hard. And I went through a friend breakup in my 20s that I do not regret.
Those are tough.
It was very tough going through it. But it was an unhealthy, toxic relationship. Mm-hmm. And it was a good thing to let go of. Right. But it was hard going through it. But now I look back and I'm like, that was the healthiest thing I've ever done.
Yeah. I love Chicago too. And it's been a while since I've been there, but do you have a favorite spot in Chicago or an eatery that is your I remember the time we went here?
There were so many. I lived, so my first year I lived in Lakeview in this apartment building that everyone lived in. It was right there. And there was a place across the street called The Bagel. And a funny story, a girl in our building, this is when Friends was a brand new show. A girl in our building was working at J. Crew, met David Schwimmer because he came in to shop. He asked her out and he took her to The Bagel, across the street from the apartment. It was a crazy story. I don't know what ever happened to that girl. She did not marry David Schwimmer. And then after my first year in that area, I moved to Lincoln Park. I lived alone those 4 years in a little studio, great little area. I had friends in my building and friends across the street. And there was a cute little Italian place. I think it was called the Basil Leaf Cafe. I think that was it. I have no idea if it's still there. But it was right on Clark Street and it was just easy and local. Never had to wait. I loved it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Brooks and I went there a couple years ago and we had a really fun weekend of we stayed in a decent little boutique hotel that had everything that we wanted within walking distance. And one of my favorite memories from that trip was going to high tea at the Peninsula.
Oh, nice.
And when we went, it was in December and the snow was coming down and we were sitting in this window and there's this gorgeous tea spread and the impeccable service. And that was one of those days where the sitting and the dreaming and the thinking about the future we wanted to create together, just kind of that conversation flowed. And I still get goosebumps when I think about that. And those are some of my favorite pictures to look at now because they remind me of that feeling.
Yeah.
And it was like anything was possible. I think.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a moment where I felt like we genuinely pressed pause on the outside world.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. And I loved my career at that time. I was planning meetings, but I was a low-level person. I was somebody's assistant. So my job when we were on site at these conferences, we're in these awesome cities. My job is to get up at 4:30 in the morning and make sure all the signage is out in front of the conference rooms. But We had a blast. We had so much fun. My first job I was at for 4 years, and we planned conferences and all these different trade associations. It was really fun. Then I
Hmm.
worked for a small company called Minding Your Business, where we planned these over the top crazy events. And it was like, it hurt your brain to be that creative, but
Yeah.
so fun. And I'm still in touch with the people I worked with there. One of my former bosses, she and I still joke about the fact that all of the assistant level people, when we got promoted to senior assistant, we wanted business cards. And it was like a whole thing. None
I
of,
remember that.
because it was like high turnover. They didn't want to invest in us with business
Yes.
cards. And they finally did. And I was like, we really just want these so we can hand them out in the bars. It was like the biggest thing.
Right.
We still talk about it. Like it's just such a memory,
Yes. I'm right there with you, with the
Yeah.
friends, with the business cards, all of it.
So fun.
So shifting into your decade of your 30s,
Hmm.
what is the primary aha moment, epiphany, lesson learned from your 30s that you think is something that you'll take into the future or that you want to pass down to your daughter?
My 30s were hard. I got married at 28. I had my first child a week before my 31st birthday, and then the second one a couple years later. They're 28 months apart. My 30s were hard because
Mhm.
children are hard. And I was not a very good mother with little children. I am much better once they got into like middle school and
Mhm.
I could reason with them and we could,
Right.
like they were independent. My son was a runner. So like I would say to him, I'm not reading the emails from the coach anymore. You let me know when I need to pick you up somewhere. I'm not managing this for you. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed raising independent people.
Mhm.
I am not a micromanager by nature. Like at work, I'm not a micromanager. I'm just not. And so the idea of like, what are we eating for dinner? Like, this is exhausting.
Yeah.
I can remember when my daughter was a baby and I had her in like the thing, the baby born, and I'm walking around the house and I'm like, it's 1 o'clock, 6 more hours till she goes to bed. Like, I'm not a
Yeah.
patient person. I'm kind of selfish. I did not want my entire life. I remember the night before I went into labor and then I ended up having a C-section with her. But the night before, I remember crying to my mom because up until that point, I could go to Paul's Fruit Market, buy one apple and
Mm.
eat it on my way out and that, then go run another errand. And I was like, my life is going to change. I am going to
Mhm.
have to like buy in bulk now and like consolidate my errands. And I did not want to do that at all.
Mhm.
And I remember the first time that they were both in school and I went to Paul's and I bought one apple. Like, I am independent
And took
again.
a walk. I want to go back to you sharing that it was hard
Yeah.
and that you actually said, I was not a good mother for young children. You admitted something that I think is really hard for a lot of women. I personally was not blessed. We lost 3 pregnancies in our marriage. So I don't know intimately the struggle of raising
Yeah.
babies and toddlers. Do you think the pressure to be the perfect mom is something that is still prevalent now? Is it greater? Is it less? What do you feel like you're
I
seeing?
I imagine, and first of all, I do want to say that I did know that, and I'm sorry about that. I also suffered
Oh,
from 2 miscarriages.
mm,
So
mm. And no
it's
one
not
ever prepares you for that. I don't know about you,
no
but like it was never discussed
that it
by
was an
any of my
option.
friends.
No.
Yeah,
No.
as something that might happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt a
And
little
then
blindsided by that.
once it happens and you find out everybody has had this, like, why
And
didn't you
nobody
tell
talks
me
about it.
before?
That might be a whole nother episode.
Yeah,
Just
it
talking
is.
about
It
that.
is. Yeah, absolutely. I get
Yeah.
that. I imagine that it is even harder to have children today in that respect because of social media. And I
Mhm.
work in social media. I do this
Right.
all day long. My job is to push out marketing messages and pull people into the communities of the brands that we're working with. But on a personal level, I think that social media can do a lot of damage in that regard. And the comparison is really hard. When my daughter was in about kindergarten, this all started, and there was a group text. We are still in a group text, but it started because there was one mom who was posting like, oh, I made these presents for the teacher for Groundhog's Day. And oh, I made homemade protein bars for my children to take to, and we're just like, okay,
Right.
my kid ate,
Sourced from local goats and
right?
yeah,
Like,
right.
who has time for this shit? We started being like, who can do it worse? I was like, well, my kid ate, a stale piece of pizza for dinner and that's all I had in the house. So, oh, well, so I think that you got to find your people. And I
Mhm.
definitely did in my 30s. My 20s, I had people, I'm still close with some of those people, but in my 30s, the people I met in that stage of life are also still very close to me. And you've got to find the people that resonate. Like, I didn't want to be part of a friend group where we're all trying to one up each other with who
Right.
can make the best dinner. I mean, I'm just happy we had some food in the house and everybody ate something, like the end.
When you're trying to find your people now, even, do you have a filter? Like, is there an initial, like, here's the first test of if we can hang, and or here's the second? Or is it just something you go with your gut on?
I think it's a gut feeling. I have another friend, Nina. She has a podcast called Dear Nina, and she talks all about friendship. And one of her
Mhm.
famous quotes is, be friends with people you like. If I think you're cool, but we don't really have anything in common and we can't sit down and have coffee, I wouldn't consider us friends. But like you and I have sat down and had coffee, we
Yes.
have a lot in common. We had a lot to talk about. I consider us friends, and I think that there are your day-to-day friends and then there's sort of your peripheral friends. And I think it's,
Mhm.
it's different. But I think at this, and in my 30s, I think I started figuring that out. Like, I don't need to be good friends with the popular moms in the school.
Mhm.
I'm just looking for people I can hang with. And potentially they have husbands that my husband can hang with too.
Right.
But that wasn't always a priority. Like,
Isn't that so funny that we
yeah,
always are looking for like day dates for our
right.
husband as
Well,
well, and they
maybe
really
your
don't want us
husband.
to.
Yeah, they don't really care. But he has made some friends through my friends,
That's
which is
good.
nice. But your girlfriends are important. And husbands are one thing, but your girlfriends are really important. And the things that I discuss with my girlfriends, even though it's not like I'm keeping secrets to my husband. I'm going to tell him about
True.
this stuff too, but like you discuss it on a different level.
Yes, it's from a different perspective, at a different level,
Right.
and usually at a much more emotional state, because women are very driven by community and by people,
Hmm.
whereas men, I think, are driven by things and building and
Hmm.
structure and frameworks,
Yeah.
and that's how they make sense of their world.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
And I think we
Yeah.
make sense of ours largely through emotion, but managing that emotion is a big job. And some people do it well and some people do not. And
Yeah.
and that's the first way to get yourself booted from the friend group if you don't manage your emotions very well.
Right. Right. I mean, you can't be the friend who's always freaking out about something. Like,
Right.
sometimes you have to be quiet and listen, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So let's tiptoe our way into your 40s. What was that
Okay.
decade like? That's a big
Um,
jump because a lot happens
yeah, a lot happened.
in 10 years. And I know
Yeah.
we're glossing over, but there could be future episodes that are topic specific. But right now we're going to do an intro to Shane Shaps, if you will.
I think the 40s, the relationships with my girlfriends got stronger. You're getting into the sandwich generation, which I am heavy into now. I'm 52, so I'm almost 53, so I am into my 50s. My parents are both in very good health, but you kind of start noticing they're slowing down a little bit.
Yeah.
What's this going to look like? You start to evaluate. In my 40s, I had kids that were adolescents that were growing up. They needed me in a different way than the baby stage, but like I enjoyed the things they needed me for, but it was a lot of driving, a lot of driving. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God, the driving. And then, you start to get into that space with your parents too, where they're like, I need you to come over here and help me with this. A lot of computer stuff, but but also, there have been a few health ups here and there, nothing serious, thank goodness. But we got into some health things with my in-laws. They don't live here, so we've had to go travel. And we actually did lose my father-in-law a year ago today.
Sorry.
Yeah, so it's, but in my 40s, I think that I really leaned on my girlfriends for a lot of that. And you start to figure out what matters, what's important.
Amen to that. Yeah.
I think that my community became very important in my 40s.
Mhm.
And I had different communities. I had my parents of other kids community. I had my Jewish community. I have my community of people that I know online, whether I know them in person or not. But those communities became very important. My business got very busy in my 40s. And there were times when my priorities may have been out of whack. Like I may have been too focused on the business or too focused on like being in charge of the parent association at school. And then the business was kind of suffering. And all the while I'm like, my kid's okay. So, and then where's my husband and all this? So,
Right.
I think that there was a lot of juggling in the 40s and it just kind of was like always at a high level. It never really settled out. Do you know
Mm.
what I mean?
Yeah. And if you have too many things, you can't manage any one to
Right.
the best of your ability. Something
Exactly.
always suffers when your focus is divided. And that's
Yeah.
really hard because you can't really choose between job, children, parents at
Yeah.
certain points. And you
Yeah.
have to shift into what's the top priority in this exact moment. Let me
Right.
address that. And then the next one is this priority. And then the next is this priority. And that can be very reactionary. Any planning that can be done to manage that or outsourcing. Are you a big fan of outsourcing certain things?
I am. Yeah. Now, some things I feel like, oh, it's just easier if I just do it myself. And then I'm like, why didn't I invest in outsourcing this? But
Mhm.
I do. I do think that there are things that I can get off my desk. And sometimes I'll say to my husband, I just can't do that. You have to do this. I serve time. Or I'll say to my brother, you're gonna have to
Mhm.
come in and help me with this. Which hasn't happened yet, but he promised me that when I need him, he will be
Yes.
here. But what I always say is women can do it all, but we can't do it all at the same time.
Yes, that is true.
I mean, I think that you can do all of these things, but some of them are not going to be at 100%. So you
Mhm.
have to kind of decide. And I feel like they bubble around in my head all day, every day. So, like,
Mhm.
some days there's something going on in my family that's top. And some days it's work and the family stuff's going to have to wait. And, it's never like, well, for the next 6 months, I'm going to focus on my career. And then
Right.
like, it just doesn't work that way. So it's kind of like, what's top priority this
Mhm.
hour, and it might change in an hour,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah. If anything shifts into life and death mode, things get crystal clear
Yeah.
immediately on
Yeah.
what needs your attention. My father passed 11 years
Um,
ago, and my mother in the last year has gone through, she's 86 and has gone through a lot of moving from assisted living to dealing with some health issues and surgery and recovery, and now living with my oldest sister.
mhm.
And thank God, because her health has improved so much. She lost 18 pounds. Her mobility
Wow.
is up. Like it- it's wonderful because when you have the technical care that you need married with someone who actually gives a damn about you, like
Yeah.
genuinely cares.
Yeah.
um, I'm so grateful for my oldest sister, Shelley, and everything that she has poured into our mother in this
Hmm.
last year. It's been great to see. Just saw her last week, and I just marvel at how sweet my mother is still at this age. Oftentimes, when people get old, they get cranky, and Mom has stayed so positive and so grateful in the midst of all of this, and that's something that I hope that I can carry into my future years. That
Yeah.
sense of gratitude.
That's great.
So let's
Yeah.
talk now. We're at present day, Shane. We're
Yeah.
in the 50s. You have a lot going on. There's a lot going on in the world around us. And I do want to give you an opportunity to talk about that piece if you'd
Mhm.
like. But what are you building for yourself now in your 50s? What is your most audacious dream for yourself? And how are you stepping toward that uh, daily, weekly? What are you doing?
Well, as a real like tactical thing, my daughter and I launched a podcast.
That's
So
right.
it has been, I've learned a whole new technology. I had
Mhm.
no idea how to do any of this. So I've added on hours to my day of like, wait, make this content, and who's doing the graphic, and can you post this on TikTok? And TikTok is not I like to lurk on
I'm
TikTok,
not
but
even on it.
like,
So, yeah.
yeah, but engaging on there, like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I need the 21-year-old handling that, but
Right.
she's very busy right now because she's back in school. So that has been a really good brain exercise for me to
Mhm.
learn how to do this. I've also kind of set a goal. I want to read a book a month, which
Mhm.
doesn't sound like a lot to some people, but for me, it is because I don't really have time. And I accomplished it last year. So I hope
What
to do it
type of
again.
book? Are you doing business book? Are you doing nonfiction, poetry,
No,
cooking? What are you
mindless,
mindless? Okay.
get my mind off the world.
Kind of a
Um,
beach read.
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
absolutely. Now I do have it's kind of morbid, but I have a favorite genre. So I try not to read that these days, but it's historical fiction about the Holocaust. And I know that that sounds terrible, but it's like, it feels like generational trauma I'm living through again.
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't know if I believe in reincarnation, but I think if I did, I would believe I was there. So I read these books, but lately I've been like, let's read something fun, and like Colleen Hoover, and just some fun murder mysteries that are just taking my mind off of reality. I need that. I also am kind of a TV junkie. So I just finished all 7 seasons of the Kardashians and now I'm obsessed with them. And my daughter's like, you're a little late to this game. I'm like, I know, but I already owned Good American Jeans. I didn't know that Chloe made those. Now I'm eating Chloe's popcorn. I'm buying Skims. I'm
Oh my
wearing
gosh.
Kylie lipstick.
I have not watched a single episode, not one.
I actually
Kardashians.
find them fascinating. Their business acumen. Now, granted, it's not like they had to go out and raise money for any of these companies, but
True.
they do have really cool businesses and they juggle a lot. Of course, they have a lot of help, but I find them fascinating. I really do.
Okay.
Pure
Okay, enough
entertainment.
about the
Enough
Kardashians.
about the Kardashians.
Let's get back to you.
Okay,
Let's get back
so-
to you. And what's your vision for yourself in your 50s that you're working towards?
I'll be honest, I don't have a huge plan right now. I just met with one of my business strategists earlier this week, and I'm like, I don't have a goal right now. I want to keep the business going.
It doesn't have to be about business.
Yeah, like that's one thing. I want to keep the business going. I want to stay in shape. You know, I'm a Peloton junkie. So
Right. Yes.
I want to stay in shape. And I've gotten into Club Pilates. I've added into my regimen.
Mhm.
So I want to do that. But I don't have like I have to do this many hours this year. You know, like I just want to maintain my health. And I am preparing myself for my aging parents. My dad just turned 85. My mom just turned 82. My dog is snoring down here. If you can hear,
I can't hear them.
Oh, good. I keep like nudging her, like, shut up. So, you know, but the future's coming and I'm the local sibling. And I have a therapist to work through that because I have a lot of trepidation about it. I have a cousin who lives in Atlanta who was responsible for caring for her aging mother, who we lost a few years ago. Her sister lived out of town. And so watching my cousin and the relationship with her mom just kind of put a little bit of trepidation, you know, and I am dealing with that. And like I said, everything's fine right now. Everybody's good. My mother-in-law is down in Florida, happy as a clam. It's like she's at summer camp. I don't even think she wants us to visit her. Like, I think she is just happy, living her life, playing her games, and we shouldn't want to be bothered. But, you know, I live 5 minutes from my parents, and that is going to be a responsibility that's going to fall on me over the course of the next 10 to 20 years.
Yeah. Proximity definitely pulls you into greater responsibility in that area, for sure. Before we move into some lighter topics, I do want to give you an opportunity because I know you are very politically vocal, or especially with what is going on right now. I want to give you a platform for a moment if you would like to speak about what it's like to be a member of the Jewish community currently.
Oh, sure. I hope I don't start crying because I usually do. And I appreciate that. And I've appreciated your allyship through this whole mess. I had a trip planned to Israel October. We were supposed to leave like October 21st, October 23rd, something like that, of 2023. It was a trip for moms, people who are raising Jewish children still under 18. So I just made it in because my son was about to turn 19. I woke up on October 7th, so 2 weeks before the trip, and saw what had happened. I immediately WhatsApped a friend of mine who's from Louisville. She lives outside Tel Aviv. And I said, what's going on? I'm supposed to be there in 2 weeks. And she wrote back and said, this is all going to blow over. This happens all the time. By the next day, we knew this is not going to blow over. And I got a call from my dad. He's like, your trip is off. You're not going. And we kind of waited until the official word from the organization was trip is off. The trip is now scheduled for this November. So I'm very excited.
Yeah.
But what happened on October 8th was we woke up to an entire group of university organizations, specifically at Harvard, blaming Israel. And immediately I was like, okay, something's going on here. Now, we had been battling some anti-Semitism in our local school since 2019, way before any of this. And I was heavily involved in that. It got really ugly. I'm not getting into that. It's in the past.
Sure.
But, you know, this had been going on. So I wasn't surprised, but I was shocked. And from there, the campus protest started immediately and all this stuff started happening. And what I was noticing and still notice to this day is, and I am someone who went to Poland on a teen tour in high school. I've been to the concentration camps and we did a whole study on propaganda and what it does. And so watching these, for lack of a better phrase, dumb white kids who have never heard of Gaza out there protesting, and they're not
Right.
protesting against the government of Israel. They are protesting against the Jewish community, whether they think they are or not.
Mhm.
Was horrifying, and it has continued to get worse. The encampments, for the most part, are shut down. Once in a while, you'll still see some dummy demonstrating, but for the most part, that's shut down. But we're still dealing with the anti-Semitism in the classroom, professors. It is now ingrained, and I am fearful of the future. I have a son who chose his university. University of Florida was not on his list. He was like, I'm going to a Big Ten school. This is what I want. And when all of this started happening, the Southern schools started being like, we're not having this stuff on our campus. Kids are going to class and we're not going to harass them. UF was my alma mater, but
Mhm.
that had nothing to do with it for him. He was like, this school is letting Jewish kids just be themselves. I don't want to be an activist. I don't want to battle with anyone. I just want to go to class and join a fraternity and wear my Jewish star without being harassed. And so
Have the college experience.
yeah,
Yeah.
neither of my kids want to be out there with a sign or yelling at people. I'm loud enough for the two of them. They're like, can you keep it down? But, he wanted a place where he felt safe, and he does. And it's been great. And so for that, I am grateful. I don't know what the future holds. I am fearful. And I wish that people would pick up a book. The one book, whenever asked what book can I read, is a book called Israel. It's written by a woman named Noah Tishby. It
Okay.
will tell you the factual history of what went on. And it's actually a great book to listen to. She's got a great
I'll
voice.
I'll grab
Um,
that info from you and we'll get that in
yeah,
the show notes so
yeah,
that we
that'd
can
be
direct
great.
people to that. I don't pretend to know all of the ins and outs of
Yeah,
that, but I always look at a conflict. If there's a physical fight going on, if there is, or if there are two entities at war, I ask myself the question, what happens if one side stops fighting?
right.
Does the fighting stop or do they get annihilated? That usually tells you
Hmm.
who the villain or the oppressor is in that
Right.
instance, usually.
Yeah,
And I felt like that was definitely the case here. And so
yeah.
my heart aches for you. And
Thank you.
uh, I, I never want to see any innocent life
Of course not.
snuffed out for any reason.
Of course
Um,
not.
but there are much bigger things at play here than just you and me. There's governments and there's history and there's propaganda, as you well pointed out,
Yeah,
which I know is now it's so hard to recognize the difference between that with just a simple scroll of social. If you're on it, you see things spinning, and when you see reporters saying the same four lines of dialogue over and over and over again, it's like this has been fed to them from a source,
hmm,
and that's the line
that's
that
all
we're
they know.
towing now. This is what we're saying,
Yeah,
and whether it's true or not. And
right.
that's disturbing. I do like seeing an influx of online journalists that are independent,
Hmm.
that are there reporting live. Like I honestly I go to X for my news now because I can see both sides
Sure.
in an unfiltered form. If I go to CNN or Fox, I tend to get a lot of
Right. You
tilt.
don't know. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So anyway, this isn't really
Yeah.
meant to be
No, I appreciate that
a
though. And you've been a wonderful ally really since day one. And
well,
it
good.
hasn't
I
gone
mean,
unnoticed. So thank you.
I there's not a whole lot that I can do, but if I can put that experience that you're going through in somebody's ear
Yeah.
so that they can at least start to inform themselves and ask themselves some questions and start looking at things through a different filter, that is what I'm happy to do. So,
Thank you.
absolutely. Now, so you've covered 20s, 30s, 40s. We're looking at our 50s and what we've got going on there. How can someone find you on social? What are your, since you are a social, person, what's the best way? How do people find you?
Well, LinkedIn is kind of my go-to these days to connect
Mhm.
with new people. So you can just find me there at Shane Shaps. That's a great way. My website is bigvoicesocial.com. And I'm on Instagram. I'm on Instagram personally with a private account. When all this stuff started, I was like, I'm locking this down. So the people that I know in real life are connected to me on my Instagram, but my company Instagram is big.voice.social.
Okay.
I'm also on Facebook. A lot of my Facebook posts I do make public because I feel like I want them shared, especially on this topic. So
Mhm.
that's a great way to find me. And then, of course, you can listen to our podcast at the Social Dialogue Podcast, which is just really fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so I also wanted to give you the opportunity to have or make one ask of anyone listening. So, is there a program or a webinar or anything that you want to pitch in this moment? I'll give you one opportunity.
Oh, wow. I
One
don't
CTA, one call to action for the audience. Do you
I
want them to
think
sign up for a newsletter?
they could sign up for my newsletter.
Okay.
That's on my website. That's a great one. Yeah, I
Okay.
didn't think of that. Or listen to the podcast just because it's fun and entertaining and makes everyone smile.
Awesome. We like fun, we like entertainment, and we like smiling. So
Yeah.
smiling's my favorite. Uh, okay. So I like to end my podcast with the quick question of dream dinner.
Yeah.
Dream dinner party. Because I like food and I like intimate conversation. So we're keeping it small, like around, I'll give you a few extra if you need them, but
Oh
less
no,
than 10.
you can
You've
see
narrowed it.
I
love it.
marked
Okay.
someone out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
the
thought
question-
hard on this.
Awesome. Awesome. Dream dinner party. Party of 7. Who are your 6 guests and what are you eating?
Okay, so I thought really hard on this because I was like, okay, it's a dinner party. I want to have fun at my dinner party. I don't want to talk about politics. I don't want to talk about Israel. I just want to be entertained. And I wanted a table of people that I thought would all get along, whether they're next to the person or across the person. So here are my 6. Are you ready?
Let's hear it.
Tina Fey,
Okay.
Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Khloe Kardashian, Jen Sherman, who not everyone will know, but she's a Peloton instructor. And those who know my obsession with Peloton will be surprised that I didn't say Olivia, but Olivia's a lot younger than all of these people. I thought Jen Sherman was a better fit. Bethany Frankel
Okay.
and Taylor Swift's mom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Interesting. I'm going to go research all of them now. What are you eating? What are you eating at this dinner party?
A big bowl of pasta, and it's calorie free.
Love it. And probably having some skinny girl margaritas or something,
Yeah,
skinny
and
girl
some
wine with
garlic
it.
bread, and yeah, exactly. Yes.
Shane, thank you so much. I have really enjoyed getting to know a little bit more about you. I've enjoyed seeing your enthusiasm for what you do and also recognizing how much more I think we have in common than even we realized in the time. We've known each other for a long time,
long
but we don't get to
time.
spend a lot of time together. You live in the city, I'm way out in the country. But when we're intentional, we talk.
We do.
So-
And I still remember the first time I met you. We were at a Glow event
Yes.
and you were doing
Glow, I want to clarify for people
Yeah.
because that is Greater
Oh,
Louisville
Louisville
Outstanding
Outstanding
Women, not
Women.
to be confused with the gorgeous ladies of wrestling. I just want to clarify.
excellent clarification. Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Yes, it
and
was.
You were doing makeup just for fun, just like here are some makeup tips. And because you're so good at that, and I am not,
Was.
you still are. I vividly remember meeting you there.
Oh.
So it was,
I think I remember that
yeah,
event. Yeah.
yeah.
So fun.
Thank you for having me on. This has been, it's been a great conversation. I feel like we were just having coffee like we do at Heine Brothers. So
That's what I
thank
wanted.
you.
That's what I wanted. I hope you'll come back
I'd love to.
later in the year. Once I do some of these initial interviews, I think I might get very topic specific.
Okay.
And that might be a good opportunity for us to dig in a little bit deeper on some specific areas that women over 50, I think, want to talk about, need to talk about, and have some really valuable things to bring to the table on.
That sounds great. All
Awesome.
right.
Thank you, Shane.
you. Yeah.
This is Kristie Crenshaw. Thanks for joining me at the Audacity to Age, where becoming never gets old. If you'd like more stories, insights, and encouragement for navigating life after 50 with purpose and possibility, subscribe to my Substack, The Audacity to Age on Substack. And if you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow, rate, review, and share it with someone you love. Until next time, keep choosing curiosity over complacency and possibility over limitation. How will you be intrepidly daring, marked by originality and verve in life post 50? That's having the audacity to age. I'll see you soon.